2014 paper 2 for IAS Geography. Now the first question was again based on map location. We have covered, as I said in the previous lecture, from 1997 to 2015 all the map locations has been covered at this length, so you can refer those. Now the next question is, explain how ecotourism activity could be important livelihood in Himalayas and Northeastern. Now there are 2-3 questions in this paper which deals with specifically focus on Northeast, hilly areas and the tribal belts. So it's very important that you have a kind of good framework for all of these. So you could use the similar kind of points in questions like these. So here we are talking about first of all the livelihood options which could be developed by ecotourism. So ecotourism, when we talk about, it's a kind of tourism activity which minimizes the negative impacts on environment as compared to the conventional tourism. So what is important under ecotourism would be recycling, energy efficiency, etc. So the recent example of Uttarakhand could be cited, where there has been ban on construction activity near glacial sites. So as a result of that, you have ecotourism that have been flourishing in that area. Again, you can cite examples of Matheran as a green zone in Maharashtra. Water conservation and creation of economic activities. Ecologically important livelihood should be developed. So recycling should be promoted. Biogas and biofuel should be used. Local people should be empowered to participate more, and more of all, this approach is mainly biocentric in nature as compared to a kind of homocentric approach which conventional tourism develops. So all these points should be mentioned, and then you must mention with specific reference to Himalayas and Northeast, citing examples that you have options for kind of traditional art and craft in Northeast region. So that should be developed, which uses the local resources. For example, the hilly areas can use pines and cones as the raw material to create handicrafts, and that would be kind of developing of market region with ecotourism, considering ecotourism. The next is, how is drainage pattern determined by the water divide? We have discussed this in this lecture. Again, water divide is the region that separates the two drainage systems. So drainage system is mainly affected by the rock, the geological time period, the amount of water that is flowing in. So you must explain here the consequent and the antecedent drainage system. So drainage along the slope and against the slope should also be explained under this question. The next is, location of thermal power plants and coal fields in India are not mutually conducive. So what is important here is, we are focusing generally thermal power plants are mainly coal based. So there should be a coal plant near to the thermal power station. That is a fact. Mainly it is coal driven. In some cases it's either oil driven or natural gas driven. But in India specifically, this is not conducive, because in India the quality of coal that is being used is mainly lignite, or I could say it's a kind of poor quality coal which releases lot of fly ash or ash flies in the atmosphere, and this ash leads to higher air pollution. Now the interesting thing was the documented and the actual. So one is the documented and the actual. So the documented level of pollution did not match the actual level of pollution that were found in the atmosphere near the thermal power plants and the coal fields in India, and they in reality have a very high proportion of air pollution as compared to what is documented on papers. They also emit particulate matters and oxides of nitrogen and sulfur, and disposal of this ash is a problem because this is highly toxic in nature, and even if a small amount is consumed, it could lead to huge impact on human health. The next is, why has agro and social forestry failed to achieve its objective? So we have discussed both of these, agroforestries and social forestry, the differences and pros and cons in these lectures. So you can refer those. Again, bring out the distribution of laterite soil in India and the specific use in agriculture. Again, a very direct question that has been discussed. Now this question suggests the measures for wildlife conservation with reference to extinction of rare species. Now, specifically, what you have to mention here is the example of Northeast India. Northeast India is endemic to numerous flora and fauna with more than 150 native species. And what we try to do is, we try to protect their habitat, delimit the regions, avoid human activity in those regions, restrict hunting, develop sanctuaries, wildlife management and protection acts that have been launched are some of the steps taken to conserve wildlife. So these are some of the points you must mention in your answer. The next question is, describe the problems of agro-based industry in India in general and cotton textile in particular. Now, when we talk about any agro-based industry, it mainly talks about industries which are deriving their livelihood from agricultural produce. So, major problems are, there is insufficient finance, there is lack of technology, the obsolete technology skills, then you do not have proper warehousing facilities, there is large investment that is required in the form of fixed assets. So these are all the major drawbacks that agro-based industries face in general. But when we come to cotton textile in particular, it's mainly the competition which we have to stand with the machine made cloth. So despite if we say Khadi India or Khadi Gramodyog should be developed, you must match the efficiency and productivity in terms of the machine made cloth and also the kind of quality and marketing skills that are required. Also cotton textile industry requires a lot of labor input, so it's a kind of labor intensive industry. It could be localized only where you have sufficient or ample amount of labor, and also the machinery that is provided to the dwellers for cotton textile industry is kind of obsolete in nature. So these are some of the major problems that cotton textile industries face in India. Now next, highlight the socio-economic and ecological roles of river Kaveri and its riverine tract. Now India is the land of Sapta Sindhu. We also call Kaveri as Dakshin Ganga, and it is known for to bring around agriculture and fertility in the region in South India. In Purans and Vedas, it has been mentioned about the values of Kaveri. Skanda Puran is the main Puran that talks about Kaveri, which derives itself from Kavera, and how the birth of Kaveri took place from Kavera. So these are some of the important things that you must mention or highlight under the question on Kaveri. Now next is the problems and prospects of National Waterway 1. National Waterway 1 runs from Haldia to Patna, and now the most important drawback is the amount of water or the water in this region is not fixed. So you have a kind of fluctuating water table. You also have a kind of undulating topography which affects the waterway. There is lot of silting of the river bed as the river gets slower towards Patna. You have problems related to irrigation, environmental problems which affect the flora and fauna of the region, shortage of infrastructure. So these are some of the major problems that National Waterway face. However, it definitely has prospects because India utilizes less than 1% of its inland waterway for transportation as compared to China, where you have nearly 47% of inland waterway which has been developed for economical perspectives. So you have the prospects which deal in terms of development of economic prospects. You have trade, transport and recreational activities that could be developed. Next is the concept of Make in India and indicate the essential inputs for its success. So you have to here simply mention how Make in India project would increase the foreign direct investment. You would have more options for employment generation. It would foster innovation and creativity. There would be more employment, more FDI that would come in, and again simplification of tax rules like GST would make in India more feasible, and there would be other companies who would demand products which are made in India. So you have to explain these in this question. Now many students ask how to differentiate question like this in geography and GS. So the main thing here is you must focus on the Make in India potentials with respect to specific regions. So it's important that you give regional case studies. For example, you can say the Kutch region in Gujarat could develop the Kutchi handicrafts. So you have regions in Rajasthan which could develop products which could develop more of services and products which are related to Bandesh and Mandi. So you have each region which could develop in its own, and you have to mark down these examples under Make in India when there is a question which relates to a kind of GS question which relates to geography. Next is salient features of climatological characteristics of Rayalaseema. Now Rayalaseema is the section of Andhra Pradesh which includes these 4 districts, that's Kurnool, Kadapa, Chittor and Anantapur, and none of these surround to the ocean boundaries. It's a kind of highly backward area with very less agriculture, mainly red soil. It's again a rain shadow belt. There is no thick vegetation. It's landlocked with no good climatic conditions and a kind of barren or a dry tract usually. As a result, this region is economically backward and has been demanding as a wants to be a separate state and enjoy rights for a separate state. So these are some of the major characteristics that you need to discuss under Rayalaseema. Now again, in spite of the negative impacts of green revolution, there is demand for new green revolution in India. Elaborate. So what we have to do is we have to highlight the existing green revolution, the 2 phases of green revolution. You have to mark down how there were negative impacts on land reform that took place, and there were problems that ushered with the regional inequality, and there is a need to for a new green revolution because we want more of industrial growth, we want more of employment opportunities, more of technology that should come up. There should be buffer stock that the farmers should have. It would also decrease our burden on import and increase the net income of the farmers. The next is, what are the desired possible changes in our trade policy to promote the development of cottage industries? Now this is similar to what was asked on the agro-based industry question. So what you have to focus here is the kind of list that talks about the various cottage industries and the sectors. Our aim should be definitely to increase exports. So Make in India should be a good option here. So again, Make in India initiative should be part of this answer. So you must include contemporary knowledge in the conventional questions as well. You should curb the imports. So there should be hike in the tariff duties. Digitization, and the farmers and the industrial workers should be made technological savvy so that they could promote their products in and around the country and across the globe. They should be able to stand and compete with the foreign goods. They should also be able to compete with the foreign goods specifically hailing from China. So you should have a kind of cost efficiency in the product. Khadi India, Patanjali and Amul are some of the examples of Indian initiatives of cottage industries or small scale industries. Again, a map location question, you can refer all the map locations at doorstep. Next, highlight the implications of declining child sex ratio in India. Now, when we talk about declining child sex ratio, it's mainly deals with female feticide. So what you have to mention here is the Save Girl Child Initiative, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Again, if there is a decline in the sex ratio, it would lead to lack of literacy, increase in poverty. It is also governed by some of the religious sentiments. It would definitely increase the crime rate in the country. So these are some of the implications. However, there is a positive side that there is a shifting role in the family. Females are given more priority, and there is a family structure that is in favor of females nowadays. So all those should be mentioned. Again, the question on feasibility of smart town development in India, we have covered smart cities in detail. So you could refer this link. Comment on the criteria to identify drought prone areas in India. Now in India, we classify drought prone areas under 3 heads: extremely drought prone, moderately drought prone and mildly drought prone. So the regions which are highly shaded here are the regions of extreme drought, which contribute around 15 to 20% of the total land cover in India. Then you have the maximum belt, which is mildly, moderately drought prone, and this is the region considering the Chota Nagpur and the Chhattisgarh plains, which are mildly drought prone in nature. So you have the definition of drought prone regions as given by Irrigation Commission, so you should mention this, and the the criteria based on which we demarcate. That includes the amount of rainfall, the years under drought, and the total area cropped under irrigation facilities. So all those are the important criteria. Now next is bring out the role of terrain in determining the India's political influence over neighboring countries. Now if we talk about terrain, we can say the north of India, you have Nepal and Bhutan, which have a kind of close or accessible terrain. As a result, we have a kind of friendly relations with those countries. If we talk about the Aksai Chin area and the Azad Kashmir, we have a kind of difficult terrain, the Siachen Glacier, Balotra and the Saltoro Ridge. So you have a kind of difficult glacier. Now this difficult glacier has both ways. Since it is a difficult terrain, you have a kind of lack of attacks that could be seen on these borders as compared to the border that runs across Punjab and Rajasthan. So that is more prone to attacks as compared to the region which has a kind of difficult terrain. So again, easy terrains makes disturbance more prominent. So as you can see, disturbance around the region of Arunachal Pradesh could be more prominent as compared to the Aksai Chin region. Now discuss the trends of immigration focusing on the major thrust areas. Now when we talk about immigration, that is moving out from the region, it can be in two forms: from outside the region but within the nation, or outside the nation. So you have to talk about the immigration within the nation, where you talk about the idea of counter urbanization that we have discussed in the previous lecture, and also outside the nation. So you must talk about facts and figures that deal with the migration statistics from India to various countries across the globe, and to which regions specifically or which continents specifically you have the maximum migration. Now next is account for the multiple problems of urban agglomeration. Now there have been 2-3 questions that deal directly and indirectly with urban agglomeration, urban sprawl and urban development. So this question talks about the problems. Now when you have an urban agglomeration, there would be definitely crowding, housing problems, increased pricing rate, more of crime rate. You would have problems related to sanitation and water supply, congestion and traffic problems. There would be disposal of trash problems, and ultimately urban pollution, which is one of the major issues. You must mention the cases of New Delhi hike in the air pollution rates in the recent days, which led to closure of major works. Now next is Backward Region Grants Fund Program. This was launched in 2007, and it was a project that was aimed to create or kind of persistently develop the regions which have regional imbalances. So the region of Northeast, Jammu Kashmir, hilly tracts. So it basically talked about the backward regions in terms of first the inclusion. So you have the marginalized groups, the backward groups, the tribal groups that were included, and again in terms of the development in the region. So the regions which lacked the funding and lacked the development opportunity were focused. So the idea was to promote the local infrastructure which was supported by the local bodies. This program was mainly a kind of bottom-up approach rather than a top-down planning, and it was more participative in nature, and nearly 11% of the fund was mainly meant for the capacity building and staff provisioning. Next question talks about skill development program and how it could contribute to growth of hilly areas. Now when we talk about skill development, we are trying to inculcate more of technology, more of labor market outcomes into the individuals or the youth, that would lead to more marketable skills that they could sell out their products in the international market and stand with the foreign competition. Also, when we talk about economic growth in hilly regions, we could classify those as the regions of Northeast could focus mainly on the traditional activities and the handicrafts and handloom activities. The regions in Kashmir Valley and Uttarakhand could focus mainly on horticulture development. Then you have regions of Nilgiris which could focus mainly on medicinal plants. The ideas in which they are rich in could be the main focus for the development of economic growth. Again, tourism and business activity would definitely be the main point, and cross-state cultural connections would develop with this. Again, a very direct question. Demarcate the difference between intensity and magnitude of earthquake. We have discussed this thoroughly here. And again, the different parts in India with a varying amount of the impact of earthquake activities. A direct question. Next, implication of India's strategic location with reference to Indian Ocean. Now, when we talk about Indian Ocean has been since time long an important source which links the Middle East with the Southeast Asia. So it's a kind of pathway that connects most of the straits of Malacca. You have Suez Canal, Panama, which ultimately have their goods and trades flourishing from the Indian Ocean. India itself is rich in Bombay High, the Kaveri Krishna Godavari basin for oil reserves, but still we are highly dependent on the import of oil. So that also occurs through the way of Indian Ocean. So we have our trade relations, we have investment opportunities, there are diplomatic ties that we have with other nations, and it's a kind of strategic partnership that needs to be developed. Now, next question, India is involved in numerous border disputes. Explain the reasons and remedies. So you have to mention these major border areas. So the former disputes with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh should be mentioned briefly. So you have Kachatevu and Talapati Island and the Bangladesh enclaves you have. However, the recent disputes mainly account to the three nations, China, Pakistan and Nepal. In Nepal, it's just the Kalapani and the Susta region. In Pakistan, you have the Siachen Glacier, Saltoro Ridge and Sar Creek. In China, you have the Aksai Ching, Dipsang Plains, the region of Arunachal Pradesh and the Trans-Karakoram Tract. So, all these you have to mention in detail the reasons and the remedies. The next question talks about command area development. Now, this program was initially released in 74-75 with an idea to develop irrigation potential in and around the region. Mainly the agriculture was the focus. However, this project faced numerous drawbacks because you did not have a kind of supply outlet that was reliable. Water amount was fluctuating. Then you had lack of technology and lack of farmers' participation in the project. As a result, the Indira Gandhi Canal definitely brought greenery to most of the arid areas of Rajasthan. However, there was a major drawback that Indira Gandhi Canal faced, which was the problem of waterlogging and salinity, as the soil was unable to absorb the excess moisture, which led to waterlogging of the region and ultimately destruction of the agricultural belt in the region very close to the Indira Gandhi Canal. So you definitely had successes, but we have to evaluate our successes on terms of certain parameters, and you have to mention those specifically in this answer, critically analyzing the answer. Next question. How has inappropriate land use accounted for undesirable development in and around metropolitans? Now here the only thing that you have to mention or explain here is the concept of urban sprawl. How haphazard development across the city has led to problems which we have already talked about in the case of urban agglomeration, and urban sprawls has led to emergence of numerous shatters and squatter settlements and slum development in the peripheral region. So all those should be mentioned in this answer. So with this we covered the 2014 paper completely. We are left with just one paper, that's 2015. We'll be working around few more classes for map location and few more important classes which relate to environment, mainly the COP22 decisions and the Marrakesh Climate Summit. You can subscribe to our channel for further details. Have a good day ahead.